Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Novelists Unwind. I'm Johnnie Alexander, and I'm here with Bethany Turner. So excited to have Bethany back with us.
So excited to be here. I love when we get to chat.
Oh, me
Can't
too.
believe it's been so long, like we were just talking about.
No,
Wow, it's been a
it's
long
been
time.
2017 last time I had
Yeah.
Bethany on here with her very first book, her debut novel, The Secret Life of Sarah Hollenbeck, which was so fun and cute. And she's back again to tell us about her third novel. I want to make sure I get Hadley Beckett's Next Dish. I want to make sure I get the title right. So
Yes, ma'am.
show us your book.
There it is.
It's so cute. So cute.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Yep. Hadley Beckett.
Hadley Beckett. Well, tell us about okay, I'm going to say this part from the back cover blurb, which I just love about the two main characters, Hadley and Max Kavanaugh. They will either fall in love or burn down the kitchen.
Yep. And at any given moment, it's a toss-up. It could go either way.
So tell us about the premise of the story. Tell us about Hadley and about Max.
Sure. Okay, so Hadley and Max are both celebrity chefs. So think, Food Network sort of chefs. And Max is kind of known as well, they call him the Playboy Gourmet, and he's known for his fiery personality and his temper and his passionate cooking style and all these things. And Hadley, meanwhile, is sweet and kind and very Southern, and kind of the polar opposite of Max in a lot of ways as far as their public personas. But they're brought together in a cooking competition on one of the shows on the network, and it doesn't go well between the two of them. We can put it that way. Max is at his worst and has a very public, very very bad news sort of breakdown, and is kind of left to pick up the pieces of his career. And basically, where the story really takes off then after that is that um, what was this shared experience between the two of them on this show sends Max's career kind of crashing and sends Hadley's stock rising. And but then a little bit down the road, Max and Hadley are forced to work together again, and they're in very different positions. And like it says, either going to fall in love or burn down the kitchen. It could go either way.
I just love that. And I love too, I read in one of your interviews that you sort of talked about, the difference. We all have our favorite chefs, but they are very different. And you're thinking, think of Gordon Ramsay and the Pioneer Woman.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
yeah, it's like these are the two most polar opposites I can think of in this. It's like every time we see Pioneer Woman, it's hi friends and welcome home, and it's just this welcoming nature. And then meanwhile, Gordon Ramsay might be cussing us out. It depends on the day. It's just.
And the show. I mean, it seems like he's kind of mellowed on some of his shows since then. But
And that's the thing, it's like, and that was really a lot of the inspiration for the Max Kavanaugh character was Gordon Ramsay, to be honest, because not just of his fiery side, but it's like then you see him on MasterChef Junior
yes.
with children, and he's fantastic, and you kind of fall in love with him because it's like, where'd that sweet guy come from? And so that really kind of got me thinking of it's a persona, it's both extremes. And so kind of getting to work Hadley and Max through that of they are who they are on the air.
Mm-hmm.
It's based in truth, but they've also found what works for them. And so kind of dealing with that and getting down to the who are these people really. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And the similarities I think to Gordon and Ree kind of end there, but definitely that was a fun image in my head. I'm like, oh my goodness, what if Pioneer Woman and Gordon Ramsay fell in love? Can you even imagine? I had fun with that. So
I just and not only just because their styles are so different too, but I mean, you're also talking about an American person from, I guess she's a big city girl that became, this Western girl, and then this
right.
British guy, so
Right. It's just like, yep. If we did their character profiles next to each other, I think it would just be like, I mean, I don't know,
Yeah.
like they love cooking. That is the common thread, and that's all I'd be able to come up with. And I'd say it's the same with Max and Hadley. Of, they have a love of cooking, and a love of cooking that came from um, their life, as far as it was born organically because of things happening in their lives and as younger people and all these things. So there's these common threads, and yet it's almost like they started with this same common thing and went in completely different paths with it. So yeah, they Pioneer Woman and Gordon Ramsay, I would just love to see that character profile mapped out for us as well.
Like that too. I would like that too. Another fun thing about your book, and I think you've done this with all your books so far, is you actually have chapter titles, in which we don't see so often in fiction, and these are a recipe.
They are. It started, I wanted it to be, it's like, seriously, if you follow this recipe from beginning to end, you end up at, it would make sense. I mean, that's kind of where I started. And then it was like, no, okay, I'm not going to be able to get that precise with it. But I loved the idea of, if you follow, it's basically a recipe for love, starting from the beginning, and everything from, I don't know if I remember them offhand on this one. But we have things like,
Yeah.
bring to boil over high heat, in a chapter where they're just really at each other, and but then blanch all ingredients, reduce, allow to simmer, things like that. Yeah, it was fun. I love that we embraced the chapter titles from the beginning and kept that going.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too. I think that's just such a clever thing, and then to be able to put those and actually have them have this consistency, as far as if you just follow them down, you realize, oh my gosh, this is creating something, but then to also have them reflect what's happening in that chapter is just,
Yeah.
next step is like, wow, you spent some time on that, girlfriend.
Yeah, probably too much time. It's like, if I'd spent that much time on certain aspects of the book, it might have made my life easier. No, just kidding. But yeah, it was the thing was, it was kind of not an afterthought. I always wanted I wanted there to be that something, but it didn't really come to us till final rewrites. Yeah, and of like, oh, this is the way to approach it. And so I threw it out there for my editor and was just like, okay, this is what I've come up with. Let me know if this is stupid. And we ran with it, and then we're able to tighten some of them up. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it, because I do hope that people don't just think of them as individual, each chapter, because yes, they absolutely apply to each chapter, but just for fun, almost like a little Easter egg. I hope people kind of look at them in sequence of the recipe that we're forming.
That's just really, really cute. So tell us
Thank you.
about your own cooking experience.
Thanks, Johnnie.
Are they like mine?
From your tone, I suspect, yes, very much like. It's I'm awful, and I was probably I don't know. I'd probably gotten maybe through the prologue of writing this book. I don't know if I'd gotten quite that far, and I reached out to my editor and said, "Oh my goodness, I just realized, if I'm writing a book about chefs, I may have to write about cooking." Like, it had not dawned on me. It was just like, oh, these are these people and this is what they do. And then it was like, I don't know how, so much of the action takes place in the kitchen that I had to figure out,
Sure.
I'm not going step by step of recipes in the book, but at the same time, they have to be doing things leading toward a recipe, and it has to make sense. And I do not cook. Um, at all. And so it was, I watched a lot of Food Network. Food Network should really just, should go down as my biggest resource.
Well, yeah, I mean, those shows are so fun to watch, and I watch a lot of them, but it does not translate into.
No, actually doing it, whole different thing. A couple weeks ago at launch, Janine Roche and I had a joint launch party. We launched on the same day, and Um, we had people, because her character is a travel blogger, so we had people submit recipes from their areas of the country, and to combine the travel and the food. And then Janine and I picked some to make them. And Janine is fabulous and had these amazing things. And it was just like, I did chicken and dumplings and it turned out okay. It actually was okay. But then I also made these pralines from South Carolina. And I knew they weren't quite right, but it wasn't until like I held them up on screen at the party, and Janine just lost it. And I had no idea the color was real. It's like, okay, they were rocks. They were, I mean, you could seriously have broken teeth with them. And this really sad thing is it was a microwave recipe and I burnt them. Like it should have been foolproof, but it was not Bethany proof. That's how bad I am.
I burnt taco shells last night.
Yay! We are compadres in this.
That is so
After my own heart.
Yeah, we all have our gifts.
We do. And that is not one of mine. And of course, so many interviews through the whole process and everything are, for magazines or articles or whatever. It's like, share a recipe with our readers. I'm like, I don't have any recipes. What are you talking about? I could tell you how to fry an egg, but I think we all know this. Those are the basics. Everything else, I can follow what's on the box sometimes. But
do my best, yeah.
So, yeah, note to self. In the future, if you're going to write about something you do not understand at all, think that through completely.
That's where it's great to have like those beta readers and editors who know more than you do.
Yes, and my favorite thing was, because I did pretty well. I did do pretty well of researching and making it seem like I knew what I was talking about, I think. But at one point during edits, my editor did say, why is he preheating the oven to make a risotto? And I'm like, I don't know. Do you not bake it? I mean, I was like, it's stovetop. Okay, sorry. So, there were little things, but it could have been much worse.
Wow, that's great. I'm sure it's great. That's really fun though. And the characters again, I mean, just right away as I started reading, it's like, oh my gosh, this is Bethany. Just these really fun characters, and Hadley is this Southern charm, and you just see it. But I love the part where he says something about her saying, "Kiss my grits," because I never say "kiss my grits."
She's like, I may be folksy, but what did she say? But I refuse to be accused of being a folksy grandmother, I think is what she. Yeah. Yeah, she's so, usually I write, my women, my heroines, they're the ones I struggle to connect with typically, because they're the ones usually going through the major transformation, and they're a little bit closed off when I first meet them a lot of times. Hadley was not that way. I mean, Hadley was just real and genuine and an open book to me as a writer, and I just loved her from the get-go. And of course, Max, very different story. And then Max was the difficult one to try to get to know. But Hadley was easy.
This seems like that's often the way it is. Like one of them just comes easy, and the other one you have to struggle a little bit to figure out.
Yeah. Max gave me fits. Because as when we first meet Max, it's not just that he's our misunderstood hero or that we're not seeing his side of things. It's like, no, Max is not a good guy when we first meet him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a grade A jerk. He's sexist. He's drunk.
Mm-hmm.
He's demeaning. He's verbally abusive. I mean, seriously, we have a steep curve of our hero, of actually liking him, and so that's how I met Max, just like that's how the readers meet Max. And it was a little tricky at times to figure out, it's like, obviously he's my hero, I know he's going to turn out okay, But how in the world is he going to get there? And so, yeah, that was a fun and also horrible experience of trying to figure him out.
And then you've got to redeem him. I mean, so there's got to be that redemptive arc, and you have to show those good qualities. So that, yeah.
Right. And there, and I loved creating the character though, that he has his good traits when we meet him, but we're not seeing them at all. Um and really it's like anything that he has that is good has been covered up, if not lost. Um, but so it's not even so much of we've got to figure out who he really is and who the good is. It's he has to change. And Hadley giving him that push into changing, and watching him, but him still being, well, both of them being flawed. And Max, definitely it's not an easy path to becoming our hero. But because it's actually, I don't know, I think since Pride and Prejudice, we have loved we've loved a man who is who wants to become a better man for the woman that he loves. And probably before Pride and Prejudice, but that's the earliest of what I love. And so that's my favorite kind of hero, is not just, oh, it's always been great and we've got to figure out how great he is. It's like, no, he wasn't good, but he wants to be. I love that.
I love that too. Well, we don't have a lot more time, but I wanted to talk to you too, because I was on your website this morning, and you and I have talked about this before, and I've seen your little different, for those of you watching, Bethany has a great Instagram account, so you make sure. I don't do a lot of Instagram, but I love your feed, so it is one to check out every once in a while.
Thank you.
And you say on your website that you dig negative reviews. So we all love positive reviews, but I so appreciate your stance on negative reviews. You just don't let them get under your skin.
Yeah, when I first started and the negative reviews started coming in, which, I mean, a note, as any of us would say to all writers, is if you're not getting negative reviews, you're probably not doing it right. I mean, that would be my version of what because no two people are alike. No two people want the exact same book. There are going to be people who don't like it. But for me, it just became such a thing of, for one thing, we could laugh at ourselves. Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of laughing at myself, because I'm ridiculous a lot of the time, and let's own that, but also, it's, I think, letting people know any level of success you have, or any bit of praise you receive, or whatever it is in whatever area of life, there's a couple things there. One, yeah, you're not going to please everyone. And two, sometimes the negative stuff is really great at keeping you humble. Yeah. And you need that. And so that was kind of part of it. But then the feedback has meant so much, especially from other writers who maybe haven't known how to deal with it or have struggled with it. And it's like, hey, it's not a big deal. And also it starts a dialogue sometimes of, this is something someone really didn't like. Let's talk about that. Let me tell you why I did it. And not in a defensive, you should have liked my book and here's why. Not that, right. But just, it's like, okay, I'm not sure you exactly saw what I was doing there. Let me explain it to you. If you still don't like it, cool. But I want to make sure you know my side of it, and so it's been fun. So I'm glad you've enjoyed it. It's been great therapy. It's cheap therapy.
No, I really, I do appreciate it, because I struggle with those reviews. Like, I just had a book come out, and every time I see there's a new review, it's like, please be at least a 4 or 5.
I know. No.
And so far so good, but
yay.
It's coming. I mean, it's coming, and actually, you're right. You do want to see, that range. You're hoping for a overwhelming high praise, but there needs to be some of those other points of view too, and sometimes you might agree with something they say. I mean, exactly. I had a couple reviews, and I thought, you know what? Yeah, they were kind of right, and if I was writing this book again, having, learned what I've learned over writing, I might have done something a little different with that first story.
Right.
You know
Absolutely.
what it is.
They can be so helpful. And I think too, like, this has helped me not dread when I see the 1 star and the 2 star, because there's probably going to be something I can use out of it as a quote. Um, and honestly, the only reviews, yeah, I love making memes. The cheerier, the better. For the worse, more scathing the words. But honestly, the only reviews that I just dread now are 3 stars, because I'm like,
Mm,
okay, I didn't really make you feel anything.
yeah, yeah.
That's the hardest to me, is like, I hope you love it or hate it, or at least really like it or really don't like it. And that it made you feel something. If you come out on the other end like, eh,
Lukewarm.
that hurts.
We're not to be lukewarm.
Right? Like, oh, sorry, I was hoping you'd feel something, but whatever. But yeah.
Oh, Bethany, this has been so much fun. As always, it's
Oh,
always a good time.
I love chatting with you.
Oh, I love chatting with you too. It really is cool. So, you may remember I asked you this the last time we were on. I don't remember what your answer was because I've talked to lots of authors since then.
Oh,
So we're not going to compare whether you say the same thing or not. But when
okay.
you're done with the novel, what do you do to unwind?
I I I hibernate is basically what I do to unwind. And I don't know, the answer may have been different before, because I may still have been feeling a lot of this is new and it's a whole new world kind of excitement. So I can't imagine that I actually answered it the same way, whatever I said. But now it's become a thing, because there's, as you know, when you're working on one book
Yes.
and getting it ready to go into the world, you're also promoting another book,
Yeah.
you're plotting another book, you're pitching, you're getting ready to pitch something, you're whatever. It's like you have 3 projects
And
minimum, usually,
you're editing,
always.
marketing something, writing something. Yes.
Yeah,
Thinking something new. Yeah.
always. So your head is so completely fried. I mean, in a way that we all love and wouldn't get rid of if we could, when it comes right down to it. But after launch and after writing, after I turn in a manuscript and after launch, I go away in my head for a few days, a couple days. It's like I posted on social media a couple days after launch. It's like the busiest. I mean, I am more gone from social media about like 3 days after launch than I am any other time, because it's like, for one thing, you're getting caught up on everything else in life that you've been putting aside.
Like cleaning house. That's always
Clean.
a answer.
Exactly. It's like, I have a sink full of dishes, y'all. See you in a week. Um, so yeah, so that has really become my thing. I do whatever I can do to think about anything other than my books.
Yeah.
And, and that's a wonderful thing too, because then after a couple days, I miss it and I'm back in it because I want to be and not because I have to be.
Right. When you're ready to go and do something else. I did.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, I said that's going to be the last question. I guess that wasn't quite true because I did want you to have a chance to talk about your Facebook reader group.
Oh,
Yes, because I think
yeah.
it's cool.
I love that group of people so much. It's called the book club closest to my house, which, if you've read The Secret Life of Sarah Hollenbeck, anyone who's read it, it's based on Sarah Hollenbeck's book club, which she was in way too many book clubs, and then she kept that one that met on Monday nights because it was the book club closest to her house. That simple little line became the reader group. And so I think we've got a little over 200 people in there right now. And I love that group so much because it's really, it's community,
Mhm.
and it's, we have at least once a month, we have a Facebook Live chat and all of that. But the only requirements to be in there are you have to answer some poll questions. But basically, what it comes down to is you need to have read at least one of my books. That's all I ask. Just because that's our common thread that unites us. It's like it's not all about me in there, but at the same time, it's my group. You have to read at least one of my books. But then once we're in there, who knows what's going to happen? And so I'd love for people to join us in there, and you can just look to the book club closest to my house, and you'll find us.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, thank you again so much. been a fun morning.
Thank you. Yes, great way to start the day.
It is. So again, do you want to show your book one more time?
I do.
Yes, Hadley Beckett's Next Dish. You're going to want to read it. And thanks to Bethany, and thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Very welcome. See you next time on Novelists Unwind. Bye-bye.